So apparently a lot of you think the Apple Watch Series 7 is a minor upgrade, and Apple's hearing all these reports and deciding, well, because people thinking a 20% bigger display is not a big enough upgrade, let's go bigger than even before! I actually got some exclusive leaks for you here. We got a squared off Apple Watch design with a larger display. In fact, it charges via Lightning, they added a camera and 120 Hz. Spoiler alert, it's just the iPhone 13 that you can strap on your freaking wrist. But yeah, bigger Apple Watch displays. Let's begin. So, stop me if you've heard this before, but Ross Young is actually trying to get people maybe perhaps a little bit distracted from his 120 Hz on the new MacBooks leak, which this video is already instantly dated. But very shortly after dropping that report, which I felt like there was a lot of weight held in because Ross Young has gotten a lot of things right in the past, and no one else was really saying to expect ProMotion on these new MacBooks, but he is. Now he very quickly went off and said that what if Apple made the Apple Watch display even larger, and then said don't be surprised if there's 3 screen sizes next year for the Series 8. So that obviously got me a little bit confused because, for one, pretty much ever since the Apple Watch has ever unveiled, there's only been 2 screen sizes for each generation. And on top of that, if we're looking at the Apple Watch lineup as a whole, there's actually 6 different screen sizes. I know that sounds crazy, but if you think about it, we have a 45, 44, 42, 41, 40mm, and 38mm Apple Watch that is still being sold between the Series 3, SE, and 7. So like every bracket of the Apple Watch is rocking a different screen resolution. All the more reason to just kill off the Series 3, Apple. Don't think much about it, just do it. Just like USB-C on the iPhone. Just don't think about the logistics. Just freaking do it, because the Apple Watch lineup, especially with watch bands now, is already getting too confusing. Now when everybody makes a watch band, they have to say this one is compatible with the 45, 44, and 42mm watch bands, and this one is compatible with the 41, 38, and 40mm watch bands. Ugh, Apple, you're usually pretty good at abandoning old standards, but now Ross Young, a fairly reliable display supply chain analyst, is saying Apple might actually change up the displays again next year. For one, I'm gonna follow my typical rule, which is that no matter how reliable the leaker is, we should always question the validity based on Apple's past actions, and if how they've treated Apple Watch upgrades in the past is any evidence of the Apple Watch Series 8, we honestly shouldn't expect much to change, right? Like Apple Watch 0 all the way up until Series 3, nothing with the screen size in particular changed. We got like better brightness, and we got the water resistance, and the chassis was probably tinkered with a little bit. We got cellular and stuff, but the overall fundamental design didn't really change much in those first 3 generations. And then kind of a similar thing happened with the Series 4, 5, and 6. Fundamental design didn't change, but new health sensor, always on display, slightly brighter display, you know, blood oxygen level checking. We got the ECG on the Series 4. So at least with Apple Watch history, it seems like every 3 generations they want to change up the display a bit. So this kind of breaks that tradition, which already makes it kind of harder to believe for me. I'm not saying it's impossible. There's no law, there's no federal mandate that says Apple has to keep a display for a certain amount of time. I'm just saying, given previous track records, it's not likely for Apple to change the display design one year and then instantly change it another. This is even the same case with iPads and iPhones, right? Like, we went from iPhone 10 to 10s, screen size didn't really change. We got some new size options that showed up a year later, but that 10s screen size stuck around with the 11 Pro as well. So it sounds weird that Apple would suddenly add a 3rd option. I guess if we apply the same spacing we have right now between the 41 and the 45mm Series 7, that means we'd be looking at a 49mm Apple Watch. Oh my god, if my math is correct, I'm kind of a dropout, so don't expect it to be, but nearly a 50mm Apple Watch. I'm trying to imagine exactly how chonk that thing would be. It's funny because in the old days, I remember when the first Apple Watch launched, and everyone was kind of surprised by how tiny the 38mm one was. Everyone was like, ooh, this is kind of hard to see, and I would really appreciate getting a bigger display. I knew a lot of people personally that ordered the 38mm watch, because of course it was way more expensive than everyone was expecting expecting $200 for a watch. That's crazy. Oh, it's $350. Okay, I guess that's outrageous, but I'll pay it. So everyone got their 38 millimeters and then realized they were too tiny, returned them, and I remember everybody trying to buy the 42 millimeter. But nowadays, I think the mindset has kind of changed because the 45 millimeter Series 7 does have like the biggest display ever on a smartwatch. I don't know if that's the case. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I genuinely don't know of a watch out there that has a larger, you know, square millimeter size display. But if Apple were to go another notch higher and provide a Series 8 that was even bigger than the 45 millimeter watch, I feel like it would start to get a tad overbearing. Like it would be obnoxiously large. It would start to look like a cuffling just because of how thin bezels are these days, to the point that I don't look at my Apple Watch anymore and think, oh, this is too tiny, I wish the display was larger. I know that within this form factor, I'm still rocking the Series 3, by the way. Series 7's coming tomorrow, don't worry. But within this form factor, I think this is comfortable enough on my wrist to not get caught on too many things, not be too heavy, and obviously just if the bezels were substantially thinner, which we'll see tomorrow, I wouldn't have any lack of screen size, and we can fit a whole freaking QWERTY keyboard on the Apple Watch now. So the idea of just going bigger for the sake of, I don't know, let's just go bigger, it kind of sounds like Apple to have an Apple Watch Max option that's just way more expensive, and maybe people with big arms that would appreciate a larger display could take advantage of that. I just feel bad for, oh my god, the watch band collectors out there. So many people have invested their life savings and their retirement accounts into building out 42 or 44 or now 45 millimeter watch bands because they always wanted the biggest Apple Watch possible. So if Apple suddenly introduced a giant, bigger Apple Watch that was crazy big, and now you had to buy all new watch bands for that, oh my god, people would have to sell so many watch bands. The resale value on those bands would probably tank, and everyone would have to buy now 49 millimeter watch bands, which, you know, that would be in Apple's best interest. So financially, I feel like there's nothing but benefits of Apple creating a third size option. I mean, we've already got 3 different screen sizes in the iPhone lineup, even more in the iPad lineup, so is it that crazy that there would be a third size Apple Watch? Perhaps not. I'm just kind of surprised Ross Young would be hearing about these screen sizes this far in advance, which is why I won't be shocked if he changes his tune later in the year and say, no, Apple was just prototyping a larger display. They're actually not bringing it to production. So he might be covering himself there, but this would definitely be one of the more cryptic tweets or cryptic announcements that Ross has ever provided. Usually he's pretty analytical and straightforward. But now I have to pass the question on to you, and I'll probably drop some polls on this later. Would you buy a larger size Apple Watch than the 45 millimeter if they offered one? Would you ditch all your old watch bands and just start from scratch all over again? Or are you comfortable with your current watch size, and is 45 millimeter big enough for you? I even probably could see a lot of people opting for the 41 millimeter now because the display is so large on that. There's no point in spending the extra money. Just get the $399 watch. All that good stuff. Let me know what you're thinking down below. This is your Apple Sheep here. I'll see you guys in the next one.